Good evening, loved ones. Welcome to Midweek Connection. As always, as I always like to say, it's an honor to be with all of you and to be a part of your life. We're in this series, The Keys to the Kingdom and Queendom. And while we're in that series, it brings up a lot of things, because right now we're talking a lot about manifesting the life that you want, learning to live from that queendom authority that you have within you. Vision, we've talked about commitment, and commitment was the first round, and then we talked about vision this last week. And I love the subject of vision. I love the idea and the subject of manifestation. I do believe that we have the power within us to manifest the life that we want to live. But what are the practicalities around that? And I hear people talk about that quite a bit. And it starts to feel like, if we're not careful, that manifestation is a lot of work, that it requires a lot of labor from us, a lot of nose to the grindstone, shoulder to the plow kind of thing. And I wanted to try to bring maybe a little bit of balance to that idea, because I do believe that it's important for us to be constantly thinking in terms of manifesting the life that we want. But I think when it becomes a labor, we need to ask ourselves what it is we're doing in terms of utilizing the power, the energy, the force that has been given to us, instilled in us, installed in us. We've all been loaded and coated with the divine nature, and it does not have to be a struggle. And if I was going to title the talk this evening, I would title it Watching the Universe Open Doors. And this would be part one of looking over the next few weeks, maybe coming in along and supporting what we're talking about on Sundays. Because we talked about holding the vision. And then I shared with you, it was funny, I think I manifested this quote because I had people saying, yeah, but what about the outcome? How long do I wait? I'm holding the vision. I've been visualizing and holding on and ready for this thing to happen. And sometimes I think we can hold so tightly to the outcome that we really are no longer holding to the vision. We're strangling the vision because we're looking at the outcome. So the Alan Watts quote that I loved that came across my desk this last week was, hold your vision clearly, but hold your methods lightly. Hold your vision clearly, but hold your methods lightly. Let yourself sort of sit in that for a moment. Because I think a lot of times when we're talking about manifestation and we're talking about vision and we're envisioning and visualizing the life that we want, we can get frustrated because it will look like things are not lining up, or it's hard, it's challenging. A lot of people think it's hard to do any of this work. And it's really more heart work than it is hard work. I think probably the most challenging thing is to be able to wake up to the realization that my thoughts are limited, that my belief systems, we'll be talking about that a little more this coming week, my belief systems are limited. So sometimes my BS is getting in the way. And it's not as much hard work, and it may be a challenge to retrain yourself to think differently. But most of the issue that I believe most of us have with abundance, with prosperity, with health and wealth and well-being, is really we have been lulled to sleep and made to believe that this is just the way life is, that life is just tough sometimes. And yes, it can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be the way that it has been. I believe that the key to our success, the key to our abundance, the key to our prosperity, it really lies in us believing ourselves to be worthy of that kind of a life, and not buying into, and paying at a high price, mind you, buying into the idea that the way we've done life in the United States of America, or even in the world at large, is the way we have to do life. We have the ability to reshape or to shape a new way of doing things. So for me, visualizing, manifestation, it's not as much about hard work is to me, it's about diligent preparedness with radical openness. diligent preparedness with radical openness. In other words, I'm being diligent and committed and disciplined to retraining my mind, especially when I notice words are limiting me or even thoughts are limiting me. I'm being diligent about preparing space to live an abundant life, but I'm radically open to what that may look like, to what that may feel like, to how it may occur. So, so this is about really tonight, this evening is really more about relieving yourself of thinking this has to be a labor, that you have to work hard. There is a natural flow of life that is waiting for you to discover it. And when we discover it, we get into the flow of the Tao, we get into the flow of pure presence. We start to realize that there's more being done than I am having to do. Think about this in a very simplistic way for just a moment. I am not having to breathe the air that I'm breathing. My lungs are breathing for me automatically. There's an animating force that's doing that. I'm not having to beat my heart. I'm not having to circulate my blood. And what I mean by I'm not having to is that cognitively, I'm not having to focus on every single heartbeat and every single breath or the circulation of my blood. There is a system in place that is making this happen. There is a natural, beautiful, and divine intelligence that's causing this to happen. This is why I think God is referred to in the Exodus account as the Yud-He Vuv-He, essentially meaning the natural happening. It is the happening. It is the fluid and fluent, constant flow of life's energy that is happening all around us in every moment. So, switching gears a little bit, I want to ask you a little bit of a question. Have you ever taken a moment and really thought about how life often seems to resist your efforts? Because I've had people say that to me this week, that I feel a resistance from the world. Have you ever noticed that life tends to resist your efforts, especially when you push in the hard pursuit of something that you desire? It's like when I am really laboring over it, it's pushing back against me. Let me say that what we resist will persist, and what we fight, we ignite. And any resistance is going to have an equal and an opposite pushback or resistance. What you push against is going to push back on you. So imagine this. The job that you are tirelessly chasing slips away from you, just out of reach. That love that you're clinging to grows completely and increasingly distant. The happiness that you yearn for, you desire so much, eludes you. It's like smoke that is slipping through your fingers or water that's slipping through your fingers. It can feel discouraging, but it can also feel disheartening. I think I'm speaking to people who understand what I mean. Because when we're talking about manifestation, there comes that frustration because I'm pushing for it. I'm going after it. I'm trying to pursue it. And so it can be disheartening. And yet, in those moments of real frustration, there's something remarkable and beautiful that can occur. Sometimes when we least expect it, we're not looking for it, a door swings open right in front of us. An unexpected opportunity just materializes magically. And all of a sudden, everything flows effortlessly. It's like the universe itself has orchestrated that event and then orchestrated other events to align perfectly just for you. And there's this part that can sneak in and you can think it's happen chance. But what if I told you that there exists a way of truly living where these doors open for you all the time, not out of sheer force, power, or pushing, or relentless pursuit of something, but through the art of letting go? Instead of screaming and shouting out your desires to the heavens or just outside because you're frustrated. What if you began to listen really listen deeply to the subtle and beautiful secret rhythm of life itself. The truth is, my loved ones, the secret is really not a secret at all. It's really more of a profound, powerful, beautiful understanding that can transform the way we interact with the entire world. See, probably the greatest illusion for me personally that I have ever fallen prey to is the belief that I must struggle, that I have to control, that I need to manipulate the surroundings so that I can achieve all of my desires. The illusion that we all fall prey to is that belief that I must struggle, control, and manipulate the surroundings so that I can achieve my desires, that I'm going to have to manipulate, I'm going to have to fight, I'm going to have to control. However, if we take a moment, and this is where I think meditation comes into play, take a moment, multiple moments, to observe nature. This is why I ask us on a regular basis to observe nature. The grass that is swaying gently in the wind or in the breeze, the flowers that are blooming in their own time and in their own space. We see a different story than struggle and control and being persistent at the work. The beautiful elements that I'm talking about, the beautiful elements of life, they don't strain. They don't force. They don't push for their growth. They simply unfold naturally. And they unfold naturally in their own time and in their own unique and beautiful way, their own manner. Consider for a moment the rivers. A river doesn't battle against the rocks or the landscape to carve out some kind of a path. Instead, it flows. It flows gracefully, finding its way all the way to the ocean ultimately. And that's what I'm talking about. There's where an invitation lies. It's an invitation for you and for me. Rather than striving and working and laboring to pry open the doors that more times than not seem to be locked. I mentioned that a moment ago, right? Isn't that something you try and try and try and try and try, and I must do this and I must do that. And then it's like when you lay back, the doors seem to open. But when I'm striving to pry open the doors that seem to be locked, instead of doing that, why not become the space through which those doors open? Instead of trying to open doors, be the opening for the doors. I think when we're trying hard, we're pushing, we're going to break ourselves down. Again, this is about radical preparedness, or this is about good preparedness with radical openness. I'm prepared for the manifestation of the affirmation. I'm affirming that this is the life that I want, whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. But instead of prying the door open, or even trying to open the door, even with the doorknob, be the open door. Pat yourself on the chest and say, I am the open door. In other words, I'm going to be like the river that's not having to bust through rock and dirt to get where it needs to go. It just flows in its course. So to me, this is a concept that's called the art of hidden action. This is talked about a lot in Eastern philosophy, especially in Taoism, and all of you know how I am about the Tao. But this is the art of hidden action. There's an ancient saying that goes like this: the sage acts without doing, and everything falls into place. So there's another verse that alludes to this in the Tao Te Ching that says, the Tao does nothing and yet nothing is undone. So the sage acts without doing, and everything falls into place. In other words, somebody who has grown and matured spiritually can learn to act, to not act, but to simply let things fall into place. And this isn't a call to be lazy. It's not asking for everything to just fall into your lap. That's not what I mean. There's a certain part of preparedness that comes with this. In fact, it's funny because in a lot of Chinese philosophy, they'll encourage people to be a follower of Confucianism while they're working and have families and children at home, but to be a follower of the Tao once you retire. Because they said the Tao means you be lazy. This is not about laziness. To me, it's an invitation to engage with life in a more intelligent and a more unified and harmonious way. To me, this suggests that you work with life rather than working against life. So when you're dealing with manifesting and you're manifesting in this way, there's a certain level of surrender. There's a certain level of allowing. Again, go back to, instead of trying to open the door, be the opening of the door and allowing yourself to be guided and directed by the pure presence. Imagine doing your work in the background, invisible, yet impactful. Create, act, or love without the need for applause or recognition. Imagine being able to simply just be and not need to be celebrated, but to allow the openings to happen through you. Something truly magical happens, I believe. It happens when we adopt the mindset of just being with what is and being in the flow. The noisy ego, the imposter that is constantly seeking validation and approval, steps aside when we are able to just be present and surrender. We can prepare, but we also have an openness that we know ultimately that all things good come from, as it says in the scriptures, from the Father above, or we could say the Mother above. So the ego that looks for validation and approval in this, and this is why we struggle with doing this, I think, this is our non-doing, is because the ego can't attach itself to the credit for that. But that ego that seeks validation and approval, it steps aside in the moment, in that moment that we surrender, and the universe begins to conspire in our favor. The thing that is holding it up more often than not, I think, is our ego, our need to control it. Just think of a painter that's completely lost in all of the brushstrokes, or a musician who is dissolved into the melody. They're not trying, it's just flowing through them. They aren't striving to be great. They actually become the art itself. They're so fully immersed in that process that they become the art itself. In that state of surrender, true mastery is born. And remember, when we master something, it's being able to do it without thinking about it, because we're not engaging the logical mind that is limited. We're engaged in the creative part of the mind, that is imagination. And when you combine, as Ernest Holmes says, imagination, endless imagination with endless and an inexhaustible energy of creation, what you're able to do is create infinitum. So I'm asking us to reflect. Can you let go of the need to control how your desires manifest? Going back to our original quote, this is about great preparedness with radical openness. This is about holding the vision with clarity, as we said, right? But holding the outcome and the how very loosely. Can you let go of the need to control how your desires manifest? You may know what you want, but do you insist on dictating how it must come to be? Remember, and this is something I think is very important during this season of the kingdom and the queendom, utilizing our power very smartly, intelligently, tapping into the divine intelligence. Remember, the universe, which is the creation of God, and it's sort of the manufacturing plant energetically of the source. Remember, the universe is far more creative and expansive than the plans that we've crafted from a limited mind. The universe is far more creative and expansive and powerful and more fun, frankly, than the plans that we've come up with from our limited mind. So I'm encouraging you to drop the map and instead embrace the journey. Trust the flow and allow life and the universe to surprise you in the most gorgeous and the most beautiful, should I say, yummy and delicious ways, because it desires to do that. When we learn to let go, that in that surrender, the ego is set at bay and the natural flow of presence begins to happen. Now, going back to the beginning, as I said earlier in the beginning, and I'm just scrolling through this now so I can get back to my quote at the top. Hold your vision clearly. Hold the methods lightly. Because ultimately, what we're doing here is about being diligent in preparedness, but being radical in our openness. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. Now, what does this have to do with kingdom and queendom? Well, in the kingdom and the queendom that you're in, you have been given authority to make decrees over the internal landscape, the territory of your inner being. And one of the ways that we do that is by declaring the authority of God, the source, the divine nature in our kingdom. And then allowing that to flow to you and then down to the rest of the kingdom that you are ruler over. And do this so that you don't burn out. Let me suggest that you surrender to all of the possibilities by simply letting go and letting God. Again, hold the vision clearly. Keep it in high definition. But hold the methods lightly. I am prepared. I'm using my words, my affirmation, and my meditations. I'm prepared to manifest the life I want with radical openness, allowing it to come however the universe sees fit. Because again, the universe is much more creative, much more expansive, much more colorful, and even more fun and delicious than the limited mind. This is why it says you must be born again so that you can see the kingdom of God. I'm born again so that I can clear the lenses and see all of the possibilities that are being made available to me. So this is not about working hard to manifest what you want. This is not about laboring over it. This is not about bowing to the east or the west or the north or the south as many times as you can in a day. This is not about the conditional love that we were told was unconditional from God. And this is not about you being good so you'll get what God has for you. It's really about setting the intention, that's the preparedness part, and then surrendering and allowing the flow of life to work with you instead of persisting and pushing and resisting and pushing. It's going to push back. Every force creates a counterforce. Be and allow. Simple and allow. Simply be. I hope this has been helpful to you this evening. This concept, this idea was a reminder to me because we've been right in the depths of this keys to the kingdom and queendom, and we've been talking about prosperity and abundance in all aspects of our life while we see what's happening in the world around us. And some of us can become a little impatient, but some of us, it's not just impatience, it's that we really feel like we've been working at this for a long time. But maybe that's the problem, is that we've been working at this. And true faith is about surrender. True faith is about giving up, not giving in, not stopping, but giving up the control and allowing the universe to fashion the way it should show up in our life. It's going to show up. It's showing up in mine. I'm allowing it to flow to me in various ways. I'm taking my hands off of the wheel on that one. I'm almost like I'm doing a carry under with Jesus take the wheel kind of thing. Because I'm like, look, I have worked with my words and with my skills for a long time trying to make this work. Now I'm not trying to make it work. I'm believing that it already is. And now, however the river is supposed to flow, however the flowers are supposed to grow, however the grass is supposed to grow, I'm just simply allowing it to show up. As a result of that, everything is lining up. And I believe that you can do the same thing. All right, my friends. I think I hear the music getting started, so I'm going to get up out of here now. Go and make it a great evening because you can. I love you. I'll see you in the morning.